Hello everybody. In this very brief video, I will overview your week 2 module focusing only on the chapter 11 resources for this week that relates to that chapter 11, accounting for current liabilities. So right now I'm showing you our home page, and I can either go to this link right there for the week 2 module, or I can go down here directly to chapter 11. Either way, you will get to the same place. I'm going to do that right now, and I am right there at the moment. As you can see, we got the usual sequence of pages. So we got week 2 overview, your attendance check, and then you have the chapter 11 lesson and homework review. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to just skip through the other one because I am not taking the class as you are. I'm just going to go directly into that page. And here you have the learning objectives. As you can see, accounting for current liabilities. Then we have payroll, which is kind of these are the two main topics for the class. There's another area that is, kind of related to the first one here, which is accounting for current liabilities that must be estimated as opposed to known amounts. And then you also have contingent liabilities. Contingent liabilities. So, and then LO5 is kind of a minor thing. You can do that on your own. And then if you go to the chapter overview, you have a little more information about those topics, those learning objectives, and then you go into the lecture notes and homework tab, you will see the lecture notes. Now, if I happen to click on that lecture notes, I will end up right here in the module for chapter 11 specifically, and it will give you a much more detailed outline of the chapter by learning objective. So as you can see, overviewing the whole chapter in more detail gives you the following. You have accounting for accounts payable, sales tax payable, unearned revenue, and the current portion of long-term note payable, which is, all of these, all that means really you're going to be basically booking an expense with a debit some kind of expense, and crediting some kind of payable. And these are all current liabilities. They're very similar to what you did in your accounting 1A class, or the equivalent if you took it someplace else in a different college. So you've seen this before. There's nothing that much new here. The only thing I want to show you in terms of LO1 is going to be that there's also going to be a calculation that relates to interest. And interest, as you might remember from your accounting 1A class, is computed by taking the principal of the liability times the interest rate, which is always expressed in annual terms, meaning by year, and then the time, meaning the proportion of the year that the interest relates to. So if you know how to apply that, you should be able to then compute the interest for any note or any liability. Let me go back to the overview of the outline for the chapter, and now I'm back to the LO, so the learning objectives. And as you can see in LO2, you get into payroll. And here is going to be something different. You know about payroll most likely because many of you are probably working. You get a check, and you know they're going to have some kind of gross pay based on some calculation given your wage and your number of hours that you have worked, plus some overtime rates for certain hours over 40, and so on and so on. You read about this in your chapter, and then you take that gross pay and you withhold certain, or you take out certain deductions, and then the result of that will be net pay. So that's what this is about right there. You're also going to be talking about specific deductions, and so in terms of withholdings, because federal government tells you to do that, you're going to be withholding some amounts. They usually relate to your income tax, FICA, which is made up of two separate items: the Social Security and the Medicare portion of FICA, plus other sort of optional withholdings that you might choose to do through your paycheck, such as things as healthcare contributions to charities, and so on and so on. And so once you do those withholdings, that's what takes you, that's what takes you from your gross pay down to your net pay. So you're going to be learning about how to account for that. Now, for that piece of it, I'm going to go into the specific learning object number 2 here, and you will see there's actually some various links to different types of underlying handouts that you can actually go and review. Here's some notes. Here's some, this is a video. And so I'm going to go directly into this handout right there. And so if I click on that, I will get to this handout. And I think it's an important handout because it gives you a very nice and concise overview of all of the types of entries that you're going to be making for this part of the chapter. As you can see, once you learn what these amounts are and how you calculate them, you're going to end up with an initial entry for salary expense in general, and they're going to actually then transfer those over to some specific liabilities, such as the IRS, income tax payable, FICA for the Social Security Medicare portion, any of the contributions that you're going to be making or the deduction you're going to be making also going to be going into liabilities that are going to be then paid for later when you actually make the payments. And so this is the second entry that you're going to be making for basically all of your employees. So on behalf of all of your employees, if you are the employer. And eventually, once you do that, you're going to have to pay it. And so when that happens, you're going to credit cash, which is right there, and you're going to then relieve all of the other liabilities you set up before when you did journal entry number 2. So those are the three main general journal entries you'll be making for payroll from the employee perspective. So that's the reason I have that there. This is actually paid on behalf of the employee earnings. Now, the employer himself or herself will also have their own portion of payroll expenses. Now, in that case, we call that payroll tax expense. And they also pay for each of their employees FICA, dollar for dollar. They also pay for other things, only themselves, not the employee. This is actually unemployment tax on behalf of employees. And so that this one, the FUTA and the SUTA, are only employer's side payroll tax expenses, and they're only paid by the employer, period. Now this one, FICA, remember that is paid for by both the employer, here, and also the employee over here. So keep that in mind as you go and read your textbook. Finally, once you set up these liabilities for unemployment taxes and also FICA from the employer side, the employer also is going to be paying them at some point. So here you have that last entry. So there's only 2 in this case. So you're going to do credit to cash, and you're going to relieve the initial liability you set up previously. Now that takes care of most of what you need to learn for LO2. So let me go back to my previous overview again. And now you have 2 more topics that you need to focus on. It will be accounting for current liabilities that must be estimated, such as warranty expenses, warranty payables, which you actually learn about in your Accounting 1A class most likely. And there's also something called accounting for contingent liabilities. Now that one I will go into a little bit here. And here what I want to say basically is the following. When you have some kind of event for which there's going to be a possible liability, not necessarily doable or required, but there's a possibility. In that case, do you account for it and record the expense, or do you wait until it happens? So this is more or less what this is doing. So there's actually different ways to account for that kind of a situation. It depends on the likelihood of what is it in terms of you incurring the actual liability. And so you have to read the chapter, obviously, to understand the detail behind this. But generally speaking, you can actually end up with basically some kind of probability on whether you're going to have a liability or not. And if it's actually a certain level of probability, you're going to then book this kind of entry here. You're going to have some kind of expense and some kind of payable for something that might happen in the future. So again, read about it. Come back to these notes and read your textbook, and you should be able to figure it out. Finally, I want to just show you the file cabinet under the same module for chapter 11. There's a tab there. Let me go back to I just leave it there as this. If you open up all of these handouts, they give you different parts of the chapter. So they don't really follow any sequence. So it's just for you to sort of review them. I may come back and give you some notes on these, But if you want to review these, you'll see that you get to see some, first of all, some key points. Here's a table that shows you all the types of taxes and who's the one responsible, what are the rates, what are the limitations, because you learn about limitations in this chapter once you read the chapter. There's also a handout that shows you how to do the calculations for a specific type or some given basic problem, so you can see that there. Another handout gives you how to calculate interest, so I give you this kind of little scenario here, and you see how the timing works to come up with the interest expense for that problem. There's another handout that gives you sort of the a view of how you think about limitations. They call them limits. And so you'll find that out again, what that means when you read the book. And so here's some examples that will show you and walk you through that type of calculation. Again, when it comes to limits, if we're talking about Social Security mainly, there's two more that relate to unemployment insurance, SUTA and FUTA. There's also here an actual worksheet you may use if you want to kind of organize all of your items you need for the eventual journal entry if you have several employees. So this is actually for a full company that has many employees, and you want to have some kind of worksheet to then eventually get you to this journal entry down here. And finally, you've got also in your homework page inside of your again the same module, the sheets that relate to each of the homework items in the back of the chapter. Some of these are actually the ones that I assigned that you're going to end up getting in the homework inside of MAL. And to find this specific worksheet, you can also find it through this homework page that shows you all the ones that we actually are doing for this chapter, the ones that are assigned and others. Hopefully this is helpful. Take care and have fun with chapter 11.